Hello, I'm Matthew Malcolm with Pacific Nut Producer Magazine, reporting to you here today from the World Ag Expo. I'm here with Roland Fumasi. He's the head of food and agribusiness research for Rabobank. They just released a 5-year forecast for the California almond industry. We've gone through some difficult challenges. Sure, the industry's grown tremendously over the years, but some unforeseen events have occurred, and just want to see if there's a light at the end of the tunnel when it comes to the next 5 years. Tell us about it, Roland.
Yeah, absolutely a light at the end of the tunnel, and that's being really driven by a handful of things, but the most important things are probably the fact that export shipments in the current season, the 2023-24 crop year, are up significantly. We expect as we look at the next 4 to 5 years that exports will continue to grow, probably not at the clip we're seeing right now. We're up about 12% on exports. Domestic shipments so far this season are flat, but we think when macroeconomic conditions start to normalize, interest rates start to come down in the second half of this year, that the consumer is going to be a little more willing and able to continue to increase domestic purchases as well. So that's one aspect on the demand side. But probably the biggest factor is that because we've had some production challenges, primarily around weather the last few seasons, coupled with this robust increase in export shipments, we're going to have very reasonable carry-in into the 2024-25 season. So that carry-in we're expecting is going to be right around 500 million pounds. That's a big change from the last 2 years where we've been 800 million plus. And so that those factors combined, we think we're going to actually get prices up into that $2 plus range, maybe $2.15, $2.20 range for 2024-25. And we actually think that higher price range can be maintained for the next few years, given both supply and demand side dynamics. So that's welcome news. Average prices last season, 22-23, $1.40 a pound. And now we're already starting to see prices strengthen up. So, yeah, there's some light at the end of the tunnel.
Well, that's great to know. Almonds is one of those crops that the trees don't last quite as long as some other tree crops. So they're regularly replanting, and those that are on that cycle where they've taken out their orchards and they're getting ready to either replant almonds or try something else, what would you have to say to those growers that are maybe scratching their heads and wondering if they should plant again almonds?
That's a great question. So on the almond side, given this outlook, we think you got a little more wiggle room now in terms of positivity, or you can be a little more positive for the almonds, we think, going forward. Now, even at our average price projections, look, it's not necessarily tremendously profitable, right? It gets most producers kind of close to that break-even range. You're going to have some producers making a little money, some producers not making a little money, right? Assuming our forecasts end up coming to fruition. But again, much better than it had been. So you start to look at alternatives, right? And you look at what's going on in pistachios with the really, really big 2023 crop. That's put some downward pressure on prices in that space. But a lot of folks out there are still feeling pretty good about pistachios in the longer run as well. I think there's some positives and negatives to both of those. Pistachios I think still have a little more room for us to continue to expand supply and keep growers profitable. Almonds, again, they're making that positive turn now, but we always have to be careful. There's a lot of risk, regardless of the crop, around these forward-looking projections, right? Things go sideways on the supply side. People were to get a little too anxious, start getting a little over-aggressive on replacing acreage, then we could be in a little trouble. On the other hand, you get one rough year on yields. That's not ideal from a yield perspective, but then that completely changes the price trajectory for a bit. It strengthens up even more. So a lot of things going on. Those are some of the risks and some of the positive factors. You just have to weigh it all, and different for everybody.
I appreciate your insights. When they do think about potentially growing something else, they got to remember that a lot of them turn to almonds in the first place because of reduced labor costs, and so the labor costs have only increased and supplies tightened. So there's not necessarily as many alternatives as there might have been before, I might say. But thank you for your report and your insights. Is there a place where they can see the full report?
So for Rabobank clients, the best thing to do is talk to your relationship manager. The research we do tends to be exclusively available in that written form to Rabobank clients. So talk to your banker, and we'll make sure you get it.
All right, thank you so much. Read more about these things in Pacific Nut Producer Magazine. I'm Matthew Malcolm, CaliforniaAgNet.com.